Off our webinar today. We're excited to have everyone join. Today we've got an awesome panel webinar discussion where we're going to be talking about boosting location revenue through marketing and customer experience. I'm going to introduce our awesome panel in a moment here, and I'm your moderator, Erin Martin, the VP of Marketing here at Netsertive, and just a few housekeeping and reminders before we jump in. We're happy to answer some questions throughout if they arise, so feel free to pop those in the QA box and I'll be monitoring it. And then as always, you guys will get the recording and the slides afterwards. So you'll have those shortly after the discussion as well. And so to kick things off, I'd love to introduce our awesome panel. First, we've got Lindsay. I'll pass it to you for a quick intro.
Hi guys, I'm Lindsay Simpson. I am a marketing consultant and with Moxie CMO. I'm currently the head of marketing for the Dog Wizard, which is a mobile dog training franchise with nearly 100 locations and 190 territories sold. Previously the CMO of Athletic Republic, which is a sports performance training franchise for youth athletes. I've been in franchising a little over 5 years now, and in marketing for about 20. And I just love everything franchising and I love everything marketing franchising. I love that our jobs change every day, and everything, it's never boring. And so I am humbled every day by the smart people that I'm surrounded by, like Laura and Michelle, and how franchising brings together great people to share knowledge and help further the industry. So I'm very happy to be here, Erin. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Fresh from Springboard. We're excited to have you. And Michelle, I'll pass it to you for a quick intro.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Payne. I'm currently the SVP of Marketing at HomeWell Care Services, or actually HomeWell Franchising, Inc., who is the franchisor of HomeWell Care Services. And HomeWell has over 100. We kind of hit that milestone at the end of last year, so we have over 100 locations. We've been growing steadily since we joined. I joined the company about 5 years ago. And prior to HomeWell, I was in the hospitality side of things. So I worked for a company called Woodspring Suites, who then got purchased by Choice Hotels. And so I was at Choice Hotels for a little while there. And I had a few stints in a couple other industries as well. So I was at Carfax Vehicle History Reports for about 13 years. And then I was at Rosetta Stone. So I've kind of run the gamut a little bit in terms of branding and marketing and all the fun things that come with all these different industries. So I'm really excited to share my experience and speak with these wonderful women, Laura and Lindsay, today. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And Laura.
Hi, everyone. Last but not least, I have been doing marketing for over 27 years now and currently with Celebree School, and really kind of newish to the franchise space. I used to work for MetaFast back in the day, which was franchising, but this has really been my baby now for the last 3 years. And I love it. Like everybody said, it's great, like meeting people. The franchise space is a small community, even though it's pretty big. And we actually are an emerging brand, I would still say. And Monday, we opened our 27th franchise school, which officially is one more than corporate schools that we have open in the preschool industry. So we have 26 corporate, 27 franchise, and we're just going to take on from here with in development and various stages of development. So I'm very excited here to share some of my learnings with you and answer your questions. And again, I'm so happy to be up here on this panel with these lovely ladies.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining. I know we're going to have some awesome insights and takeaways. So today, in the next kind of 30 to 45 minutes, what we've got for you is touching on customer experience trends and what you guys are seeing in the space. We're going to dive into what's working and what's not and shared lessons learned as we go. And we'll end with Q&A if we do have time. I have a feeling we probably will not, so put them in the box to answer throughout. And then as always, we'd be happy to follow up later as well. And just a quick note about Netsertive, if you're not already familiar, we're a marketing partner who takes a centralized approach for scaling your digital marketing. So just making sure you have that strategic partner, the workflows and the back-end system in place for operational excellence. So as always, feel free to hit us up on anything after this. So to kick it off, I first want to talk kind of high level and see what you guys are seeing as some of the biggest trends, market dynamics impacting the customer experience in the space. And Lindsay, I know, fresh off of the plane from Springboard, would love to kick it off with you and see what you're seeing in terms of things marketers need to be aware of and consider right now.
Yeah, this was a big topic last week as all the franchise orgs got together and started talking about this. I think the age-old term of content is king is starting to get a little bit outdated as people are saying data is king. And the right data is king because data can be overwhelming. You can be, and data can be wrong too if misinterpreted. And so I think having an organization that's data focused to help drive your decisions around customer experience is really critical. And leveraging first party data is a really hot topic right now in customer experience. How can you leverage your first party data? And then how can you make smart decisions with that customer research about making partnerships or identifying opportunities for new groups of customers? And so that was really big. Another trend that if you're not on the bandwagon already is connected devices, CTV and OTT in terms of marketing and customer experience. People seeing advertisements and content, reading content, and then being followed and retargeted on all of their devices in their homes is a great way to connect the customer experience, but making sure that your creative is accurate according to the channel. So I think that's really key. So it's a really big topic last week and in the industry right now. And I'd love to pass it to my the other ladies on the panel.
Yeah, Laura, Michelle, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say we're doing very similar things here. So I'm glad to hear that that's the hot topic. So CTV and OTT have been really a big thing, getting those eyeballs because there's so much competition and everybody's just inundated with things. So how can you be different? But I also think you need to be everywhere. So that's the other thing too, is like making sure that you're not just relying. I think people that aren't in marketing kind of just hone in on digital marketing, but it's really about having that experience. It's a omni-channel approach. It's across different channels. Everybody's speaking the same tune. The creative is the same. The messaging is the same, and having that continuity. So when you are following and retargeting people, they're like, oh, it starts to click in, especially when you're going into new markets, because for us, we're brand new. So like heading into like different states, people don't know who we are. They don't even know how to say Celebree. So that's a whole campaign we have of like, how to, the phonetic spelling of Celebree, how to pronounce it. So you can get really creative with it. But I think like being everywhere is with the same messaging is extremely important. And then making that great first impression. So you have one chance. If somebody's going to give you a chance in all that clutter, make sure you make it a great experience for them when they call in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I agree with all those things. I mean, consistency is always key when it comes to branding, right? You want to have that consistent quality experience. I think, this past year or so, especially, we've seen this greater push for privacy protection, right? With our cookie settings, all of those things on every website now, right? Ensuring your personal data stays private and you're protected, right? We've got universal analytics changing over to, GA4. So Google's changed the way that we even track these interactions. And of course, we've got AI everywhere, right? And so all of these things are really impacting the way that a company can even market and engage with our customers and clients. So, so that creates a challenge on our side, but that doesn't mean we can't do all those things that, you guys just talked about as well. I think, the way that we do it also is impacted by the economy, right? We've got, this varies greatly depending on the industry and whether you're selling a product or a service, but, small businesses or, they have more limited budget. So how can they be a bit more scrappy, right? And then you've got these larger companies kind of changing their strategies, knowing that people currently don't have as much disposable income to spend as they perhaps used to, right? And so that impacts a lot of the things that we do as well. So that's something that I've just noticed in the past, year and a half, but these tried and true methods though still hold true. I think it's just you got to change the mindset and your strategy a little bit according to these things.
Yeah. And one follow-up question there, because you hear scrappy budget and CTV, and I think a lot of times people don't think those things can go together, but they
Mhm.
actually can. That's like the benefit of CTV is it's not this crazy broadcast buy. So
Right.
one thing that I wanted to follow up on was CTV specifically, and kind of that said, the thing that I see on that piece too, and what you were saying, Lindsay, about that omnichannel presence, and that digital touch point and like that full digital journey is also, we call it the benefit of CTV, but it's almost like the benefit of either DSPs or other networks that allow you to reach where people are beyond a Google wall. Google does a ton. They want you to always just be on Google, but like there's a whole different advertising world out there where you can connect dots. So do you guys have any experience or like best practices related to CTV campaigns and deploying them, or how to get started if you're not doing it and you're thinking, I don't have budget, I don't know where to start? Like, what would you guys recommend if any of you are doing CTV? And I know maybe Laura or Lindsay, if you have experience there.
Yeah, I think, like meeting some of these vendors, like going to these shows or just doing a Google search. I mean, you can find or getting recommendations from people like us, like reaching out to us and asking us who we use. But being really targeted, I mean, you can save a ton of money. I think it's when people go out and blanket is when you start to struggle and you're not going to see the return. So if you have a scrappy, smaller budget and you want to, use that for CTV, you can just make sure you're very targeted in your efforts and monitor and measure. So like, don't let it go on forever if you're not seeing an increase in branded search and you're not seeing, the number of eyeballs coming to your website. But it's definitely worth a test with us. I mean, you can do it for a couple $1,000s a month. You could test it out.
Yeah.
I think you could do it with a partner, an agency partner who's incredibly
Absolutely.
intimately knowledgeable about that field. It's probably the best route to go. But to your point, there's also, you can go straight to network, not all the way direct to network, but something like Mountain or something like that, that gives you a user interface. You can go and test some dollars. If you're going to go, and sorry, no software vendor is paying me to say anything like this, but if you went with an aggregator like that, try to find one, especially if you're lean, like my brand, that doesn't necessarily have a creative department. A lot of those systems and platforms will have even an AI tool to help you create content on the fly. So by adding some video, pre and post slides, even QR codes, they have AI tools that will help automate the creation of short 30-second, 15-second TV assets that can be utilized within their platform because they want to make it as easy as possible. So finding a tool like that will help you be a little bit more lean and fast. Otherwise, the effort needed to go into CTV or OTT, it could be a big lift if you're trying to do it perfect and right and at scale.
Yes, such a good tip. We have tools to do great video creative these days. It doesn't require huge investment in photo shoots. And one follow-up question we had was, how else do we track CTV ROI? I know, Laura, you had mentioned the increase in branded search, website traffic. Do you guys measure anything else on your end to prove that efficacy of CTV?
Well, like Lindsay mentioned, like we do have a QR code on the ads too. So you can look there. If you have a tracking phone number, if people happen to call, you can look at that. So those are the different ways.
Market, test it in a specific market and see if you have,
And the
I
traction.
loved how you said, do a couple $1,000 test just in a certain market and see what happens.
Awesome. And then the other big trend you guys, data mentioned that I want to unpack. This was the biggest thing and takeaway for me when attending France CXC. This past year, it was just like anything that a marketer wants to do hinges on data. So it's like your ability to harness and use it is whether you can get ahead or not. So I think one of the next things we're going to jump into was just like tactical lessons learned from the trenches. So kind of with that, with data, how do you guys use first and third party data for your brands today? Maybe start there. Like, what can we tangibly do? Like, do we have data lakes? Do we not? What are you guys doing?
Well, I just wanted to add to what Michelle said in the last topic, which is privacy settings. We're in the era where own information is incredibly important to them, and they're also not stupid. They understand that the more information that they put into the beast, the more personalized experience they'll get, out in life. And so if you really leverage that, I think you guys, we could essentially choose your own journey. The more we allow the customer to build their profile over time, asking them questions to add things to their profile, like, do you want your private information protected? How frequently do you want to be communicated? If so, on what channels do you want to be communicated? Asking for more detailed information to help you build your first party data is the start of everything. And so I think as you think about your journey, besides anniversary and birthday, which is the basics, ask more qualifying questions that help build the customer's profile over time, that gives you more data to help create future partnerships, automations, customizations, and personalized journeys. So I love what Michelle was talking about, and then how to take that a step farther.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's something we did recently at HomeWell. We launched a new website last year, and just learning from all the data that we have on our customers, we know that we have 4 specific audiences that we needed to target, and we developed user journeys on the website for where, to meet those visitors where they're at in their home care journey. So we have folks who are the decision makers, and they might live a couple states away, and they need to find care for their loved one. So what does that journey look like, if they need immediate care, or if they are just in the research phase? We have caregivers who are coming to our website. We've got referral source bases for B2B, potential B2B relationships. So we really take the data and develop those journeys on our site specifically for those users.
And then what's an example of what you guys do with that data then? Is that, the advertising you do? Is it emails? Like, what are the different pieces that you use that information?
We leverage it to build it. So home care is a little bit of a different animal than other franchises. If I look at hospitality, it's kind of cut and dry, but on the service industry, it's really becomes hyper local. So we use it to develop tools for our franchisees to use, because what works for one franchise owner doesn't work in another state, right? And so there's all these nuances, especially with home care. So we use it as a tool to help develop, trainings, education, content for our owners and for our clients as well, and for our franchisees to leverage in their local market. So we can create we have some signature programs that we create to help differentiate us in the local marketplace. So we use it in a bunch of different ways. As you know, Aaron, we had this conversation. We don't do paid at the national level just yet. We were kind of waiting to kind of reach a good number before we kind of jumped into that. And so that's something that we'll be approaching soon. But we do create a lot of resources for our franchisees to use. So if they want to place local ads, we help them with that. We create videos for them to use. We have digital assets they can use. So that's how we use it at HomeWell. I know it's different approaches for different industries, but that's how we kind of dive into it here.
Yeah, awesome. And how about you, Laura?
Yeah, I was gonna say we're pretty similar over here because we're on the opposite end. We have kids in preschool versus the home care.
Right.
So very similar, where we want to know the kids' ages. We want to be able to give them tailored content that is related to the ages of the children. So, and want all the whole experience to be, if it's toddlers, or if it's 5-year-olds, if it's school age, we want everything to match their experience in that way. And journey is another big word that we use here too. So even when looking for Fran Dev partners, like people to become franchisees, like we put people on these journeys and show them. I love video content. So I don't know about you guys, but like showing videos of whether it's the different age groups of the children and using those, or the franchise partners and who they are and what those avatars are and the people that we're looking for. So making sure that we're capitalizing on the information we're getting in to find more people like those people. So the data that we use, like we pump that information back to Google. We create lookalike audiences. We put it back into Facebook to find those people to retarget, all those types of things. So it's very important that the stuff that we get and that people are actually using the system properly. which is something we work on constantly to make sure that fields are put in properly. But because all of that is very critical, we're taking that data to try to find more people like those children or like the franchise partners.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know we've talked a ton about data, and I kind of want to shift to just other kind of lessons in the trenches. I think I calculated that combined, you guys have 56 years of marketing experience. So I'm sure there's been some epic wins and maybe some epic fails on the customer experience side of things. So Laura, I actually wanted to start with you because you've got a ton of hats on your resume, from like the product marketing side of things to brand marketing and strategy. So I'm just curious, like high level too, when it comes to customer experience, what are some things that you've learned and stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is people, right? You have to have the right people executing. You could have all the processes and procedures in the world. And if you have an Eeyore on the phone, I love to use Eeyore, but if you have somebody that's just like, woe is me, it's just not going to be a great experience. So I think having those right people, and in other previous positions, there's been a dotted line to the call center or the enrollment center, we call it here, where we have a lot of input and say on what is going on the phones, and we listen to those phones, and getting those messages back of the feedback loop is really important. So I think that's one thing. And one of our differentiators here too is that we actually have our call center on site. So even for our franchise locations, everything comes in here. So we're able to control that message and communicate really well with operations. So we're like, joined at the hip, and we're listening to those calls on both ends, whether it's us, if it's operations, and we can find out what's happening, why aren't these quality leads? Like we're able to look, because we care so much about these leads. So we can go into the system and be like, what happened here? And but again, I think it goes back to the processes and procedures, the messaging, the journey, and making it very specific to the people that are calling in is extremely important. So you don't want to feel like you're a number, one size fits all. You want a very customized journey.
Yeah, we're in the age of personalization.
Absolutely.
And Michelle, I know you also have a strong visual and creative background, along with your marketing experience. So I'm curious on, not just HomeWell, but the other brands that you had mentioned. What are some of the lessons learned throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been really fortunate to be part of these companies and really watch them grow. Carfax specifically, I spent the majority of my career, the beginning of my career there, on the creative side, and really help develop that brand and build brand awareness. So I think lessons learned there, what they did an excellent job at is, the vehicle history report really helped consumers build confidence, right? That the car that they were buying for their son or their daughter wasn't a lemon, right? And so, we had these old ad campaigns, don't make a $10,000 mistake because, you're not trying to, you don't want to buy a new car for your son or daughter, but, you don't want to get them something that has a wash title, for example, right? So it really gave them the confidence to make the purchase, and also to go into a dealership and haggle, right? And so you kind of felt unguarded, right? A little bit when you went into these dealerships, because that's very intimidating, right? Nobody likes to buy a used car, right? Nobody really enjoys that process other than actually getting the vehicle, right? And so, and then what they did, they kind of made a switch as well, where they started partnering with dealerships. And so that turned the tide as well, right? So it kind of bridged that gap between consumers and dealers, and kind of gave that transparency that helped build trust there, and just made the whole car buying experience a little bit better. So they did an excellent job with that. I think, some of the lessons learned, not necessarily at Carfax, but, in other areas that I've seen, is if a company kind of starts pulling their focus off of their core product and doesn't keep it strong, that's where you start seeing these failures, right? Because they will tend to just try to diversify in different markets, which makes sense. You're a growing business, but if you're too focused on this over here and you let this, kind of lose its strength, you're going to struggle down the road. And so I will say, I mean, that's something we saw at Rosetta Stone. It's a great product, but they really didn't focus on innovation with their core product. And along came Duolingo. To their defense, I mean, it's hard for them to combat a free product, right? Like Duolingo kind of came out of left field. But it was something that Rosetta Stone could have pivoted a little bit faster for. And it's something that, we worked on while we were there, right? Like, how do we target, my focus was targeting millennials. And that's what we really focused on is, how to get people to see that yellow box CD differently. Right now it's more of a digital company, right? And so how do we work with that? So I think that's something that I've seen in companies, not just Rosetta Stone, but elsewhere, right? If they start pulling off of that, that's where they can kind of flounder a bit. And then, on the hospitality side, if you look at hotels, one of their big areas is loyalty programs, right? And so obviously, how do you keep guests coming back to use the same brand no matter where they're visiting? And so in order for that to work, their guest experience has to be consistent, right? They've got to have the right brand standards in place. They've got to meet their QA. And, otherwise you're going to get these reviews where someone said, hey, I stayed in San Antonio. It was fantastic. I just went to Boston and the place was filthy and the desk clerk was rude, right? And so you've again, it varies per industry, but there's a lot of lessons learned here in terms of, making sure you don't lose focus on the things that matter.
Yeah, those are good. And Lindsay, I know on your end, being the Moxie CMO, you also do a ton of panel moderation. Like you've got a lot of brand lessons learned under your belt. Curious what kind of stands out in your career as well.
I'll probably take more the angle of the what's gone wrong. I think we're in such a digital age now, and we're trying to scale our businesses so fast. So we've built so much automation, especially since COVID. I think consumers are really craving human experiences. So I think brands need to remember to be able to unplug the automation and have an off switch and insert the human as soon as things start to go south. I think customers can sniff out a robot like that. And if they're not getting a genuine response, and if your automation or your automated journey doesn't match your customer or your brand persona and your values and your voice, then you need to be able to unplug that as quickly as possible, insert a human and really guide that person. So I think for us as brand leaders, the lesson learned here is be flexible, be super tech savvy with your data and your automation so you can scale fast, but just as quickly be able to unplug the engine. And I always say, allow them to dial for operator. I want to talk to a human. I just think that's so key now. So with customer experience, the more that we can do to allow our brand to stand out, what's unique to our brand that no one else does, what is our minimum experience for the customer experience, like Michelle mentioned, what they cannot get anywhere else, and they will get it at our brand regardless of its location, especially with franchising, and that's how we protect that customer experience.
Yeah. I love that. I agree with you got to avoid chasing that shiny penny, right? Like, I think that there's a habit with people, they want to go after, oh, there's this AI, this automation. But I love that. Like you're right. People can sniff those out in a heartbeat, and then it's a bad customer experience and it's a ding to your brand.
Yeah, and related to that, making that magic happen. And I like what you said, Lindsay, about kind of that MVP experience. Like we have a standard and a guideline, and how do we always hit that? And to what you were saying, Michelle, make it consistent, which, like Laura, you said, where you joined at the hip with operations can make or break things. So I know that, operations is our counterpart in making the rubber meet the road. So Lindsay, I'm curious from your perspective too, like how do you think that marketing and operations can better deliver that MVP and minimum, human experience that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it starts with understanding each other's roles, not just the departments, but who's in those roles. I mean, oftentimes marketers can be really big dreamers and visionaries and creatives, and let's do this massive national campaign. But understanding your counterpart in the operations department who's actually going to be responsible for executing, whether it's a loyalty campaign or the tech stack integration of how leads will come in and full funnel operations. I think it's important to understand your counterparts. And before you execute or before you launch those big visionary ideas is making sure you understand the down funnel, how it's going to be executed tactically. Because if you can't execute it against it, the customer experience is going to suffer because of that. And so with my operations team, I always look at what's short term, what can we do as quickly as possible to get this off the ground? Do we have a long-term plan? So, okay, maybe in 6 months when we start to develop the phase 2, 3, and 4 of this visionary experience. And then what's the what if plan? So what's the plan B if this goes south? Do we have a backup strategy? Or if this technology vendor doesn't pan out, what is our plan after that? So for me, it's thinking through all 3 of those. I'm very much a planner, and I know my operations counterparts are too. So understanding what might happen down the funnel, I think is important to us to execute.
Operational excellence can make or break.
Yep.
And Laura, how about on your guys' end?
Yeah, I mean, very similarly, I think when Lindsay or when Michelle was talking about moving too quickly, I think sometimes, marketing can have all these dreams and we come up with promotions and then we're like, oh, we didn't think to tell operations, that we were doing this. And then people are calling in with different promo codes and all these things. I think when you start early, you plan, you're aligned together, you have meetings together, and you forge ahead together, I think is really important. And in the franchise space, you have to really pay attention to what your franchisees are doing because, with us, we answer all the phone calls and things internally. So we'll see promotions on their Facebook page and we're like, we didn't know anything about this. So it's like, how do we quickly get everybody aligned and get that communication going so that it doesn't seem horrible for the customer calling in. So I think the sooner you can come up with things, the sooner you can come up with a plan, have marketing and operations together, is key, is vital. And we're constantly in meetings and talking with them because again, there's things we might not see on the marketing side that they're knowing that's happening in the schools. Well, did you think of this, this, and this? So they bring a lot to the table as the ones that are executing, which I really appreciate. So the sooner you can get involved and have meetings with things that you want to execute, the better.
Yeah. And tactically, I'm just curious, what do your meetings and meeting cadence look like? Do you weekly? Do you do stand-ups? What's your cadence?
Yeah, so there's a every 2 week, a bi-weekly meeting that everybody gets together. But I mean, we're in constant communications on a daily basis. I mean, I just saw the director of the call center just walk in here now, so into our office. So I mean, it's a constant thing because every school has their own. Or for us, our preschools, every school has their own issues or things that they want to solve for or opportunities. So we want to make sure we're in constant communications, but on a calendar basis, it's every 2 weeks. And then once a month, there's a big strategy meeting. So we're big on strategy here, which I appreciate. There's a lot of companies that don't focus on strategy. They just kind of go out and do. So I love that. We're already into 2025 planning right now here, which is great for us. So we can see our vision, like Lindsay was saying, the long-term planning, we can see what that's going to look like next year, what we're thinking about now. So I love that here, that we do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. As leaders, you want to be working on the business, not in the business all the time. So yeah, Michelle, anything else on your end as well that you see from the operational perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we take a similar approach. What I'm hearing is that you've really got to have this collaborative culture, right? And I think that's something we do really well here at HomeWell. We are really into just working together. We meet regularly with our franchise services team. I think, if you're rolling out some big initiative, some of the keys to making it successful is making sure that you have a plan for that communication internally as well as externally to the franchisees, right? So it's hey, franchise services team, this is what this new thing looks like. And then this is how the franchisees need to leverage it. And that gets communicated to the franchisees as well. So you got to have a plan. That's part of your rollout plan, right? And, one of the things we're doing here at HomeWell is we're actually about to launch a new marketing hub, and we're using technology, basically this new platform, to kind of tie in the marketing components as well as operations components, as well as we have our learning lab trainings in there. So training is a big key to all of this as well. And that was a big focus for us this past year. So I think, when you get into brand consistency, that training component is key. So that is definitely a focus I would include in the process.
Yeah, yeah. Project management is just such a critical life and career skill when it comes to planning and training and launching anything as well, for sure. So just kind of more of the same type of convos to dive into. When we talk about delivering on that 5-star experience, we talked a ton about using data. It's kind of like, man, that customer experience, like Amazon ruined it for us. Like everyone things fast, efficient, quick. It's so competitive today. And so Michelle, I know you've shared a lot of nuggets, but just curious how you guys at HomeWell think about delivering on this, and kind of given the industry that you're talking about, caring about, your most loved family members.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how do you think about this and measure success?
Well, we look at it several different ways, right? Obviously, internally, one of the indicators is revenue, right? And so I'm sure our franchisees are like, "Oh, you care about his revenue," which is not true, but it's a true indicator, right, of your success, of your growth. Are you doing things well, and are you performing well? The growth of the agencies as well. You don't want them to just be stagnant, right? So our agencies building their caregiver bench? Are they growing their client census? Reviews are obviously huge in this industry. It's huge for everyone, but it's really compelling for the service industries, I think, specifically, right? Internally, we look at, the NPS scores. We use franchise business review, and our engagement with our corporate team, right? So are they using the tools and resources that are available to them? Do they meet regularly with their FBC? Do they attend our corporate events, like our masterminds and regionals and annual conferences and all these things, right? Because what we see is a direct correlation between these things and the ratings that they give on their FBR survey. And I see nodding, right? So I think I think you guys are knowing exactly what I'm talking about. So you see a correlation with these scores and their engagement with the system. And so we kind of look at all these things holistically, just to see, and we have really good relationships with our franchise owners. I will say that's something that I think is pretty remarkable. I think it's great for the home care industry. I think it's probably relatively common in the service industry in general, right? You've got these people who want to do well by doing good. And so I think building those relationships with the franchisees is also key in terms of, what's going on with them and how are they feeling about the business.
Yeah. And how about you, Laura? I know it's another industry where family experience and the crazy parents like me and their experience matters.
Yeah, I would say like people are the biggest thing. I keep going back to the people, but having that emotionally intelligent person, like you were saying, you need that human interaction. So really when you're dealing with people's children, the most precious asset, I mean, it's important to care and find people that care. So like when we're looking for franchisees, like we have a whole, like everybody has competencies that you have to meet, like every job role here. And the franchise partners have that too. So it's like making sure that, we don't have to give them so much coaching to get to the next level. Like they actually have that emotional intelligence to be able to do this job. Whether you're giving a tour, whether you're on the phone with people, you have to have that. So, and we use NPS scores very much here with our families, internally with employees, with our franchisees. We look at things like referrals. So for me, I always say, like, when new franchise partners come in, I'd rather not spend a ton of money at the top. I'd rather you be out in your community doing community connections, like, and getting referrals. I mean, I think, that's really the key. So, but you have to be like, an owner that is willing to, go out and talk to your families and get to know them. And I think that's a super important, that human element is really important to the success here.
Yeah, organic growth, word of mouth
Organic growth.
is the best machine you can have.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Word of mouth, getting out in the
Mhm.
community, being a part of that community is extremely important.
Yeah, and Lindsay, how about you and your brands?
So I think it's important for my brands that we set what our minimum standard of service is, our minimum requirements for service, whatever you might want to call that. And so the entire organization understands that. So Michelle, to your point, depending on what hotel you visit across the country, you'll have a minimum standard of service, whether it's you're always smiling, you're always caring, that you're always following up, or that the customer's always right. Whatever that is, making sure that your entire organization executes against that, then anything on top of that is icing on the cake. For me, I really go back to what's unique about the brand, and that's what gives it a 5-star experience. Because that's how we stand out. Whether it's handwritten note that you get from a mail-in service or something like that, or a warm towel at the end of your workout, or at the Dog Wizard, it's our lifetime support. Any customer that brings their dog through our dog training services has a lifetime support for their dog, meaning they can join our pack walks or our any training service later to improve their dogs later in life. So I think understanding what your unique brand proposition is, and measuring it is difficult. I think the ladies talked about NPS, reputation management, watching your consumer feedback. But digitally, I think you can look at a few things online when we're talking about marketing. Improving our conversion rate on site and having a focus on CRO, or conversion rate optimization on your site, the faster you can get people through their experience, is an improved customer experience. You're looking closely at bounce rates. And then for us, time to close. So the moment that customer came in or showed any kind of interest to the moment they've purchased or experienced your brand, we should be analyzing the time to close. And that's what helps us understand, did we have a great 5-star experience? Did we do a great job with brand awareness, higher up in the funnel? Because if we can decrease that time to close, then we've done our job on all parts.
Yeah, that is huge. Taking away any friction in the process, because any friction that's introduced, life's going to happen and will sideline someone from the step they need to take. I think that one's huge. And especially about the CROs and website optimizations. I mean, we all, I think, have heard that stat that if it takes longer than 3 seconds for a site to load or your phone to get to where it needs to go, you bail. And like, there's so many sites today that still have not reached that bar or may have issues. And so it's critical. Like, you will lose people if there's any of that friction.
And to your point, competition is so fierce. So I think you have to have a really deep understanding of what your competitors are doing and not playing the angry political game, but saying why your brand is better in certain areas, being able to help develop the scripts for your sales team, for your franchisees, for your field managers, to be able to speak to why your brand stands out as opposed to your local competitors, or even find unique spaces to partner with your competitors just to lift the overall awareness of your industry, might even be a tactical solution.
Yeah, that's good. So to round us out, I know we're getting to time. I did want to hear your guys' hot take on the brands that you love the most and that you think we're delivering on an excellent customer experience. So maybe Laura, kick us off with what's your favorite brand and why?
Okay. Well, I did put 2, but my favorite brand is Nordstrom.
Oh,
I think that, and the other one was Chick-fil-A, but they're both very similar because of the customer experience. I think, they're different industries, but it's memorable, right? So I know Nordstrom's philosophy is hire the smile, train the skill. It's like finding those people that want to work, want to treat people properly. That's hard to find. But if you find those people, then you can teach them how to, work at Nordstrom, type of thing. And I mean, I will go to the fact where I will go see something on like Dolce Vita website, and then I'll go to see if Nordstrom has it, because I know the experience is going to be better. If I have an issue with it, I can return it. So I love feeling like I'm important and the customer is right. And I think Chick-fil-A, we've all had a my pleasure. So we know that those people are trained to treat everybody like they're special. And, I think that goes a long way.
100% on both of those. And Lindsay, how about you?
We were before the webinar started, we were all chit-chatting about our kids. And I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, but my son's really into engineering right now. So for all of you moms out there, he's part of this company called Crunch Labs. It's a subscription box, an engineering subscription box. It was started by Mark Rober. He's obsessed. He's been getting it. He's on his 2nd year now. From a loyalty perspective, he gets a gear badge for every box he builds. When the box arrives, it's beautifully packaged. It comes with a video walkthrough of how he builds it, and then a huge social engagement as well. But my favorite with that brand was I call it the dog ate my homework story. We came home from a trip and we had left my dog home for a few hours, and the dog literally ate like 3 of his projects, including the badge that would go on his plaque. And I took pictures of the destruction, and I called the company. I submitted the pictures, and I was like, literally, the dog ate his projects and I'm dying. And now he's missing his badge. And they were like, oh my God, no problem. Like, click here. And we have 100% replacement policy for any piece or part or badge I want in any previous package that had delivered. It was a click, press, play, and within a week they were back at our house. And it was one of those moments where like I felt like a mom hero, because it was like, don't worry, I will get this replaced. And so just soup to nuts, this brand treated me special, and the experience was frictionless. And it made me seem like a superhero mom. And I think that's pretty awesome.
That's so good. And they know their base well, because they know a kid's going to lose something. And
Yes.
going to be on the hook for finding that shit.
Exactly.
I love it. I'll have to check out Crunch Labs. And Michelle, how about you to round us out?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple that come to mind. On an e-commerce side, my favorite one is really Chewy. I mean, any pet owners out there, I'm sure you've experienced Chewy. I mean, they've got great branding, right? It's consistent. Their messaging, it's cute, it's fun. Their website, the variety of products they offer, the pricing is all good experience. They have good customer service. And I've always had a very seamless experience with them. So I think, if you look at who's doing it right, I think they do a great job. I think on the service industry side, it's a challenge, because there's a lot. Service industries it's a different animal, right? But I think one that does it well is Safe Light. Right. So everyone knows the jingle, right? If you got one, it sticks with you, right? Their brand isn't exactly sexy, right? But it sticks with you. You know it. You know that if you give them a call, they're going to come to you. They're going to work with your insurance. So it's kind of hassle-free, peace of mind. So I think it's a great service. And I've used them in the past, always had a good experience. So I think they do a really nice job as well. But yeah, I guess I'll stop there. I could keep going. I could go,
I know there's so many.
There are a lot
too, but it's just great to be out there. And, as marketers, we walk around the world analyzing every experience we have and all the different brands. And luckily we get to take inspiration from them and give us new ideas of how we incorporate it into what we do. So,
Aaron, what's one of your favorite brands?
Oh man, UPS, guys, UPS. And again, it's because I was like, why do I just love this place? Besides, like, they know their stuff. It's always quick and efficient. But it's one of those things where I think, I don't know if they're using data or not to figure this out, but they know that their customer base, like me, has kids, and they've got this little kid toy area that, like, it's super tiny. It's out of the way. You probably don't even know it's there. But now my kids will go to UPS with me whenever I want. I don't have to like, drag them along. Like we're doing an errand and you're coming and there's like screaming. They want to come. They're always so knowledgeable. The kids make it easy. Like they know their base and they know that they need to have a kid entertainment area for me. So I love my UPS and we'll never go to a post office again, I don't think. So yeah,
You're right. They pivoted really well. I think that they've got those self-service areas now. They take all the Amazon returns really easily, so I
yes,
agree with it. I think they do create a great experience.
it's heavenly. Awesome. Well, thank you ladies so much again for your time today and for everyone who was able to join live and later on watching this on demand. We'll have materials in the recap shortly. And as always, let us know if you have any questions after and hope everyone has an awesome day. Thanks again, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.